have some solidarity groups that support the Palestinian cause and the Palestinian rights. They co-sponsored this event. They helped us prepare this event. Their tables are over there, and some of them are going to come up and share a little bit about why they support Palestinian rights and the Palestinian struggle for freedom. First, I have Ellen Brahms with Jewish Voice for Peace. She's going to go ahead and tell us a little bit.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm so pleased to participate in this time of remembrance. It has also, for me, been a time of remembrance on a personal level. 50 years ago, on May 4th, the Freedom Rides started in southern USA, and I was a participant. I was a Freedom Rider, and it has been a time for me of remembrance and rededication as I participated in our reunion in Chicago over the weekend of May 1. And again, just last week in Houston, Texas, which is where I was arrested and put in jail. And I want to talk a little bit about how, as a civil rights movement veteran, I came to work with Jewish Voice for Peace in an active way. As you can imagine, I am an activist. I have been for the past 50 years. And of course, you know, over 50 years, many things happen. Your activism waxes and wanes with your family responsibilities, etc. But after I retired, I became active in Grandmothers for Peace, and then Jewish Voice for Peace when it got established in Sacramento. And I want to speak to why Jewish Voice for Peace. I believe it promotes a powerful voice for countless Jews and allies who believe that a lasting peace in the Middle East can only be achieved through justice and full equality for Palestinians and Israelis. Jewish Voice for Peace supports justice, equality, democracy, and self-determination and human rights for Israelis and Palestinians. We oppose all violence against civilians and all anti-Arab, anti-Muslim, and anti-Jewish bigotry and oppression. Jewish Voice for Peace joins with the United States peace movement in demanding an end to U.S. policies of war and domination. We believe in diplomacy over military force. We want our tax dollars spent to meet real needs in this country and throughout the world, and not in support of military aggression. JVP calls for suspension of military aid to Israel until the occupation ends. Further, JVP supports the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, including the right of people to return to their countries. Peace will only be possible when Israel acknowledges the Palestinian refugees' right of return and negotiates a mutually agreed just solution based on principles established by international law, including return, compensation, and/or resettlement. Jewish Voice for Peace calls for suspension of military aid to Israel until the occupation ends. We oppose all U.S. aid to Israel that is used to perpetuate the occupation, attack civilians, to violate human rights, or to support the settlements. Boycott, divestment, and sanctions. And I invite you to visit our table to pick up literature and to sign our piece on the boycott, divestment, and sanctions, and we focus on TIA-CREF. The BDS movement is a nonviolent approach to challenging the system, and as you might remember, the Freedom Ride movement, the Civil Rights movement, was a nonviolent movement, and I continue to support nonviolence as a strategy and a way of achieving a lasting peace. So JVP supports divestment from and boycotts of companies that profit from Israel's occupation of the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem. This includes companies operating in or from occupied Palestinian territory, exploiting Palestinian labor and scarce environmental resources, including materials or labor from settlements, or producing military or other equipment or materials used to violate human rights or to profit from the occupation. And I want to quote from Alice Walker, and as you might imagine, Martin Luther King was 50 years ago one of the reasons why I went on the Freedom Ride, and he had an international perspective too, because Martin Luther King said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." And Alice Walker, just last year, when she spoke in support of TIA, CREF, and BDS, says, "It is time for us, in Mass, to show up in front of our conscience and sit down in front of the only bus we have, our very lives." What would that be like today in the situation between Palestine and Israel? It would be to support boycott, divestment, and sanctions, BDS against Israel to end the occupation of Gaza and the West Bank, and by this effort, begin to soothe the pain and attend the sorrows of a people wrongly treated for generations. This action would also remind Israel that we have seen it lose its way and have called it to it, often with love, and we have not been heard. In fact, we have reached out to it only to encounter slander, insult, and too frequently, bodily harm. So I'm trying to make a connection, and I hope you can hear it, between the civil rights movement in the United States and what's going on with Israel-Palestine now, and the importance, and for me, of participating in this effort. Thank you.